And for more on an end to the melodrama, let's bring in ESPN's J.A. Adande. J.A., Denver, as it stands right now, of course, this can change before the deadline, but the Nuggets sitting here minus Melo, but they pick up 4 players, 3 picks, and $3 million. How did they do?
I think they did very well. I'd give them an A. It's about as well as you can expect the team to do this, trading a superstar. They were never going to win the trade. Whoever got Carmelo Anthony was going to get the better of the trade. But I think by holding out, it frustrated a lot of us, but by holding out to not quite the last minute, but, 11:59, 30 seconds, they were able to really get a deal that I think is favorable. As Mark just said, they acquired a lot of assets. It's interesting. All of a sudden, they vault into the same position that the New Jersey Nets were, in that they have a lot of draft picks that, I think will be very favorable under the next collective bargaining agreement. Draft picks might not mean that much in the NBA right now. You can ask the Miami Heat what they think of draft picks. Pat Riley would much rather send them off and have actual players. But maybe in the next collective bargaining agreement, free agency might not be as easy to get guys from place to place without having to give something up. So then, all of a sudden, the draft picks become a lot more valuable as trade assets.
Well, Jay, let's look at the Knicks now as they get ready to make a run here over the season's second half and into the postseason. They've got Melo, they've got Amari, they've got Chauncey Billups. How does that Knicks group look to you right now?
Well, this isn't about now. I think this is about, they're not ready to make a run at the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics or the Chicago Bulls. But what you do have is, which is so difficult to obtain in the NBA, now you have 2 star players, 2 superstar players, and potentially you maneuver to go after a third in what could be this new free agent class in 2012 that includes Deron Williams, Chris Paul, and Dwight Howard. So what you have is the hard part. The hard part is getting 2 superstars. And if you look at traditionally over the last 30 years, all the championship teams have had 2 Hall of Fame caliber players on that team. So, is Amari Hall of Fame guy? Maybe. Carmelo certainly seems to be on his way, but they're that type of player. Those are very difficult to obtain. Now you have the hard part. Now I think you just go out and kind of fill in the blanks.
What does this mean, J.A., for the Knicks' identity as a franchise? Are they on their way back here?
I think so. I think the whole notion of the Knicks' identity and the Knicks' value to the league is a little bit overrated. The league just did just fine in the 80s when the Knicks weren't really on the scene contending for championships. But, there's an argument, there's something to be said about having a marquee team in the biggest media market in the country. And, for fans who were told to hang tight, be patient, wait for LeBron James, we're just going to gut our team. All we're doing is creating salary cap space. Now at least they have something tangible. You have Amari Stoudemire, who's been a big hit on Broadway, and now you have Carmelo Anthony, one of the best scorers in the league. So now, Knicks fans, you have something to be excited about. You have a basis. I wouldn't go out and order championship T-shirt jets and close down and start shredding paper for the ticker tape parade, but they have a reason to be excited, and I think it's good when any market can have a reason to believe in this team.
J.A. Melo does what he does. He puts up a lot of shots, scores a lot of points. How will Carmelo Anthony, the Denver Nugget, compare in the way he plays to Carmelo Anthony, the Knick, in your mind?
Well, it's interesting because I think he's going to want the ball in a lot of places that Amari Stoudemire gets the ball. So I'm not sure exactly how their 2 games mesh. And I'm not sure how Amari might take to maybe not being the star. It's going to be interesting to see who gets to be the top dog there, because Amari made it pretty clear when he was in Phoenix that he was looking for an opportunity to have his team, to be the man. And he got to New York and he got all those things, and he was celebrated. And, it didn't take a whole lot. There's just a couple games over 500, but he's beloved in New York. Will he continue to be the guy? Will it be Amari's team co-starring Carmelo Anthony, or will it be Carmelo, the New York-born Carmelo Anthony, the guy that's been so coveted for so much of the season? Will he now vault to number 1, and how will Amari feel about being number 2, if that's the case? So there's still a lot to be worked out among this team.
Well, Jay, is that mentality changing around the NBA? Do people look at the Miami Heat, and it wasn't working to begin with the season, and now it seems to be working so well? Will big superstar players begin to acquiesce more, to bring in other guys and say, hey, it's okay, it doesn't have to be my team, we can do this together now? Is that attitude changing around the league?
Well, ultimately, they want to win, and you saw a lot of these guys sacrifice egos to play together on the Redeem team, the U.S. Olympic team that Jerry Colangelo put together. I don't think it's that necessary that most guys need to be number 1. It depends on the stage of their career. I mean, you saw Boston was able to make it happen so quickly because those guys were at the latter stage of their career when they had already had their individual accolades And, we're willing to subjugate all that stuff for the good of the team. With Miami, it's different because these guys are young. LeBron still has MVPs in him. Dwayne Wade should still be contending for an MVP. Chris Bosh still wants to be an all-star. But I think in that case, you've got two guys, particularly in Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, who part of their game, a big part of their game, is passing the ball. Carmelo Anthony is not known as a passer. Mark Stoudemire is not known as a passer. So it really is about the individuals. You can't just say all stars are alike. They all want the same thing. Different guys have different games. I think it'll be harder to mesh these two than it was to mesh the three in Miami.
J.A., LeBron James wanted to win championships and be surrounded by good players. He got what he wanted. He took his talents to South Beach. Carmelo Anthony wanted to be a Knick. Now he's a Knick. How concerned is the league about these superstar players holding franchises hostage and then sort of determining their own fate, where they go, forcing changes, forcing personnel moves to go where they want to be?
Well, it also depends on, whether you're the buyer or the seller, whether you're the team that's acquiring one of these guys or, in a lot of cases, the smaller markets that are losing them. If you look at David Stern's comments over the last year, he's somewhat changed his stance. He was one of the guys that's really behind the Bird exception in the collective bargaining agreement that allowed teams to go over the salary cap to retain their own players. He really believes in continuity, keeping stars in one place. But he's seen what's happened in the interest in the league over the last year. When you have this movement, when you have a LeBron and Dwayne Wade joining forces and Chris Bosh coming down to South Beach, he's seen the TV ratings go up. He's seen the hits on NBA.com and ESPN.com and all these websites that cover the NBA go up. So he sees the value in this. He understands now that it's a different mentality for fans, that there's not this attachment to seeing a guy in one place. There's a fantasy basketball mentality. People are interested in seeing how these different combinations will work. So he understands that it really doesn't hurt the league as a whole as much as people might thought it used to. But what it does do is give these individual franchises a huge setback and makes them wonder if you can ever attract or retain a superstar. So it's bad for them. I think for the league in general, it's actually good.
Yeah, everybody loves fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, fantasy football, and now we're seeing it come to life in front of our eyes. J.A. Adande, thanks very much, J.A., for your insight. We appreciate it.